Hi, in the previous lecture we've added our first processor, getFile, but it wasn't doing anything just yet. So for it to start doing some things, we need to add a second processor. And for this, we're going to choose the processor PutFile. So you can just click and drag on the UI anywhere but the processor to just move the UI a little bit. So we made a bit of space on the right here. So again, I'm going to click on the top left and drag in the space right here. And I will type in my filter box, PutFile. I add it. So here's my PutFile processor, and we also need to configure it. So if I right click on it and press configure, we get back to the exact same windows as we had before with settings, scheduling, properties, comments. So for a name, you can keep PutFile, but I'm just going to say place flow file in target folder. Then scheduling, we won't touch it for now. And properties, it says the directory to which file should be written. As you can see, it's a bold property, means it needs to be set, and currently there's no value set. So the target directory is going to be users, Stefan Merrick, NiFi, and target. We obviously need to create that directory. So here we are, back into my NiFi folder. If I go up one level and I create my target folder, as we can see now we have source and target. So it has been created. These parameters are just fine. Again, we won't change them for now, but they're bold and they're filled with something, so that's usually enough. Then we apply. So as you can see, our two processors right here have warning signs. This one is not being happy, this one's not being happy either. So that's because we need to connect them before we can even start them. So to connect to processor, it's actually quite easy. You can click on the center of the first one and drag it all the way across to the second one on the screen. There is a create connection pop-up that arises. Remember the first lecture? We had flow files, we had processors, and we had connectors. So that's a connection right here. So the connection also has a bunch of parameters. So in the detail and the settings tab, right now we will only care about the details tab. The important piece is that, as you can see, there is this place here for relationship. It's ticked and it says success. If we untick it, we lose all the purpose, and I'll show you why. So we keep it ticked and we say, okay, add. As you can see, there's now a little box here, a queue, a connector between my first two processors, and it's named as success. So let's just go back to it, and it says for relationship success. Why does it say success? Basically, on the first processor on the left hand side, when we did configure it, it said that all files are routed to success, meaning any file it will pick up will go to success. Therefore, that's why you had a success. And that's the only place where flow files can go. For some other processors, as we'll see, they can go to other places. Success, failure, retry, and these are just as many different routes that your flow files can get in your flow. Don't worry, we'll go over that concept many more times in this class. So now, as you can see, we don't have a warning sign anymore. We have a little red square. That means that the connector is stopped. The processor is stopped. So what we can do when it's stopped is usually start it. So right click and start. So as you can see, it has started, but nothing much happens. It's because we haven't created any file in our folder. So one thing to notice in Apache NiFi is that you don't need the right-hand side processor to be running or even, correctly configured for the left-hand side processor to run. It's because Apache NiFi will use the connection right here as a buffer. So let's do something real quick, and we're going to create a file in that folder and see what happens. So I go back to my terminal and I go to the source folder. We're in NiFi source. So I'm going to say echo hello world, and we're going to put this into our hello world.txt. This will basically create a hello world txt file, which content will be hello world. Enter. Here we go. If we do ls, wait, isn't that odd? The file's not here. What happened? So if we go back to Apache NiFi, we see that actually something has happened in Apache NiFi, and that's a good thing, because that means our processor just worked. So let's look at right here what's going on. It says that it read 12 bytes and it did create one flow file. So these little numbers right here are statistics that come from your processor, and they're aggregated over a period of 5 minutes. So right here, what the get file processor is telling us is that it found a file and it just picked it up. And that's why the file disappeared. Now, if we go right a little bit, we see that we have one file in the queue, and that's the file we just picked up. But nothing much has happened to it yet, okay? So that's why files disappear. So if we just go back to the terminal and, create a bit more files, hello world 2, and so on, go back to NiFi, you can right click and press refresh if you want it to go quicker for refreshing the UI. But here we go. We have 3 files that have been created and they're in the success queue. Now what we want to do is place the flow files in the target folder. So as you can see right here, there's still a warning sign. So something must be wrong about our processor. So usually the messages are pretty explicit. They say relationship sex is invalid because it's not connected to anything or not auto-terminated. And same for relationship failure. So if we right click and go back to configure, basically you can see that this processor has 2 outcomes. Either it's a success, meaning files have been written to the output directory, or it's a failure, meaning that file could not be written for the directory for whatever reason. So if you don't have a connection for failure and success, you will still get that warning sign. But something you can do in Apache NiFi and say, okay, if it's a success, I actually don't want to do anything with it. So automatically terminate the relationship, meaning don't worry about the rest. And same, if it's a failure, it's bad practice, but we're going to do this exercise. If it's a failure, don't worry about it. Don't do anything, discard. And we click apply. So what's going on now? We have no more warning sign. Now we have a red box, a red square. So as before, we can right click and press start. As we can see, it has started. If you right click and refresh, oh, it already did it. Now my queue is empty. It has 0 elements in my queue. And as you can see on the right hand side, there were 3 files in. Okay? Now there's something happening here and it's an error. So we'll get over that later. Let's just go back in here to our target folder. And if we look at the content of it, we see 2 text files, not 3. So what happened? Well, as you can see above, we did create hello world and hello world again, and then hello world 2. Therefore, because we have created twice the same file, we can only get 2 files at the end. So that's something that's actually quite interesting, right? We have in 3 files, it did do 3 tasks, but 1 wasn't written. So that's what you can see, and that's why we had a little error message here. It says, hey, warning. Basically, the file already exists with the same name. Therefore, I don't know what to do. And that's where the power of NiFi is coming from. If you right click on the folder and do view configuration, in the properties, you can actually say, hey, what's happening in case you have a conflict? Fail. But you could also say replace, ignore, and fail. But look at this. I can't edit it. I can't click replace or ignore. Why? It's because my processor is running. So to edit this, you right click, stop, right click again, configure, properties tab, and now we can edit it and say, okay, replace. Then you restart it. So now let's look at what happened. If we do look at the content of helloworld.txt, it says hello world. Now we're going to go back to the source directory and we're going to write something new. We're going to say hi again into the helloworld.txt. Now if you go to NiFi, we can see right here that the file has been created and it's been outputted in that processor right here because it says 4. So now if we go to the target directory, we still have 2 files, but if we look at the content of this helloworld.txt, it says hi again. Therefore, it actually was replaced. So that's a lot to take on for, a simple thing. But what we've effectively created is a way, for example, to archive data or move data from a folder to another. That looks quite simple, but that already shows you how many configuration options, how many properties you have per processor. And that could be quite overwhelming. So what I suggest is for you to go for a walk, replay the video, see what was done, understand how this flow was created, and then get back to it. I'm happy to help. If you have any questions at this point, please ask in the forum, or if you feel like you've understood everything and for you it's very, very natural, then please move on to the next lecture. Thank you.